For those of you who are familiar with Photoshop, the term adjustment layers makes perfect sense to you. Well, you can do the same thing in After Effects. An adjustment layer is a non-destructive sheet that you could put on top of a layer that you can then apply special effects to, like color correction, and it only affects that layer that it's on top of and the layers underneath it. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in some footage, some pictures from my old desktop. Just grab a whole bunch of stuff here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, let's see here, this background and just drop this here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in a PNG file of a goat and drag it right to the top layer down here. So I'm going to scale this down as well. I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and we'll scale the goat down a little bit. Now let's say, for example, that I want to change the color of the background but not affect the goat. Well, let me show you how you would do this the old-fashioned way. Of course, you would go ahead and just choose, the layer that you want to apply things to. But let's say, for example, that this field here was separated into different elements. For example, the greenery up front was separate from the ones in the background and separate from the ocean and the mountains back there. So I would have to apply a color correction to each individual element. So instead, what I can do, and I'm going to go ahead and put this on top of the goat for now, I'm going to go to the layer menu, choose New, Adjustment Layer. And as you can see here, we have a new layer that appears inside of our layers called the adjustment layer, of course, appropriately. And I'm going to right click on the adjustment layer. And let's say I'm going to put on here a color correction. So I will go to something like color balance. And I'll play around with some of these properties here. So as you can see, I can twirl these guys open and I can change the values of things. Like, as you can see here, I'm really making the green very saturated, or I can go ahead and do the same thing in the opposite direction and desaturate it. So I'm going to pop that all the way over there. And I'm going to really just push this as far as I can to kind of get a pop art feeling. And you'll notice that because this layer sits on top of both of these objects, the goat as well as the background, both are affected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the goat layer, I'm going to drag him above the adjustment layer. And you'll notice now he is no longer affected by this adjustment layer. Now, what we can do with the adjustment layer as well is we can hide it. So let's say we want to explore and I don't want to see this right now. Well, I can go ahead and hit the eyeball and now that's gone. And I can create a different adjustment layer if I feel like it to try different ideas or different effects. Of course, I can always turn that back on, and under the effects controls where it says adjustment layer, I can go ahead and click on this FX here, and that will also turn it off. So you're not really stuck. And if you really don't like it, you can just delete that layer. So if you have effects that you want to apply a certain look to, adjustment layers is really going to be your best friend because you can really just explore those and control absolutely everything underneath it in one fell swoop. This is really good when you want to do things like movie effects. Have you guys ever seen the movies like Underworld, where everything has like a blue cast to it? Or The Matrix, where everything has a greenish cast to it? Well, you can do those kinds of things with adjustment layers. Or, of course, you can use lookup tables, which I'll talk about later on in this course. So definitely check out adjustment layers. They are non-destructive, and you can always get rid of them or turn them off.